All right. Welcome to Gaming, Gains, and Geekery. Today I have my first guest, Micheal. Why don't you tell the world all about yourself? The world, like everybody's listening to my podcast already.
The whole world. Hey, Jason,
Everyone.
thanks for having me on the podcast. That's perfect. Exactly what we want, right?
Great.
My name is Micheal. I run a fitness company, technically a fitness company called Brute Beetle Athletics. It's one of the arms. Essentially, what I do is I provide clothing, athletic apparel, and accessories and such, as well as training soon for folks that are into the fitness, but are also huge gamers, huge geeks, and honestly, just huge nerds, in my opinion. Because I'm one of those people. So outside of that, I'm a huge nerd, like I mentioned, and I love fitness. So I thought this would be a great podcast to jump onto, have a couple conversations about nerdy things, fitness, and how that all ties together. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm
Hey, no
excited.
problem. I appreciate your time for sure.
Of
And
course.
like also giant nerd into fitness. So hence the reason I started this podcast and the reason that you and I got connected. So you said that you're
Exactly.
going to be starting to do some training soon. So you don't have that as part of the company right now.
Not right now. I have some blogs that I'm posting at least I think it's 3 times a month right now, where I go into detail about just fitness tips, tricks, health, all that type of stuff. But what I'm planning to do is do some training with a kind of a spin, if you will, on like the what do you call it, the class system that you have in MMOs or like RPGs, if you will,
Okay.
where if you're focused on like a strength type of focus, I call that like the warrior program, if you will. If you're more
Yep.
focused on like what was it called, like aesthetics and lean physique, I call that, I think it's like the hunter or rogue program or something. And there's a couple others that I'm working on. So that's kind of the focus. It's a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a niche into fitness, and I'm tying a progression system of RPGs into it. So that's going to be super exciting, but it's going to be a long way out. It's like I've got the basics of it, but I don't want to just like release it for the hell of it. I want to make sure it's good and people
Right.
like actually have a place to go.
Gotcha. I mean, it sounds dope to me.
In my head, it sounds good. But in practice, I don't know yet.
They see how it works. But I mean, like with that kind of thing, it is a matter of sort of, like, I think, like testing out protocols and like seeing how they work and changing them and like evolving as things go on. I think it really is
100%.
no different than like playing an MMO, like an RPG, where you're leveling up.
You're
Like
always min maxing. You're always optimizing. Exactly.
exactly right. You're trying to figure out like what's the best build here. How do I do this to make this as much fun as possible too?
I mean, that's all we do, right? I mean, when it comes to fitness, that's all we do is always trying to meet, always trying to grow, always trying to get better, always trying to get bigger, and just making it as optimized as possible. I mean, it's literally like you're playing a video game, honestly.
It
I'll,
really is. Like it's why I'm sort of surprised that fitness and gaming aren't more integrally linked. Like it's just not.
right?
Why aren't there more of us? Why isn't
I
it everywhere?
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And honestly, I think that still stems from like the when video games still like were new in its early onset back in like I guess 80s, 90s, when people were like, we do sports, and anyone that does anything with a computer is a huge nerd, and we don't associate with them. And that's kind of like been fading away recently, but I still feel like there's a little bit of that stigma that exists, and that's why people that either play video games or they do fitness related things, but they tend to not mix. But it's kind of moving away. I mean, there's
I
there's
feel like
those
you're right. Like, yeah, I
there's
think
those
like,
NBA
well,
players that are
yeah.
playing like Call of Duty and stuff. I'm like, there we go. We're like
Now we're getting
moving them
somewhere.
over a little bit. Exactly. We're getting somewhere.
I mean, I feel like people like yourself and like myself and like actually a couple of my buddies in the fitness industry are also like very similar, like nerdy, geeky guys into like Marvel and Star Wars and like
Oh yeah, 100%.
games, and like it's becoming more mainstream. So now like I think we're able to start mixing fitness into that a little bit more, which it's just huge bonus, I think, for everyone, because fitness should be an integral part of everybody's life.
100% agree. I mean, it just extends your life. It makes your life better over the long term. I mean, I've seen reports of like individuals who have like literally same family, one super active, one not active at all, same age, 70, 75, 80. One still walking around doing their chores, do whatever they can to like be healthy and live life. The other one stuck at home, like diseases, illnesses, everything you have it. So
Yep.
It just goes to show, just take care of yourself and you'll have a longer, more, I guess, rewarding life, honestly. Plus, who doesn't like going to the gym? It's fun. But then again, that's subjective, I suppose.
That one is subjective. I'm gonna have to disagree a little on that. There's definitely people that don't like the gym, but everybody enjoys movement of some kind. I think
That's true.
Once you start moving your body, you find ways that you enjoy.
There's something for everyone, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, like you and I don't even have the same training styles. I mean, I've trained like a bodybuilder before, but like not so much now. But that's like more your training style, right?
100%. It's either hypertrophy or it's strength based. So I actually just started a bulking program, or I guess period, about 3 weeks ago. And what I'm planning to do is just about 8 weeks of hypertrophy training, and then 8 weeks of strength training, and then another 8 weeks of hypertrophy training. And I gotta see where I get at. I try not to gain too much weight, but honestly, over the last it's 24th, so it's been literally 24 days. About 3.5 weeks or so, I've honestly seen my strength just explode. And I had a buddy of mine who hadn't seen me in about 3 weeks come to me at the gym, be like, dude, you look so much bigger right now. I'm like, really? I only get like a pound and a half, but okay, I'll take it.
It's all that pump training, buddy. Like it gets the blood trapped in there, right? It's like a permanent swell all the time.
Exactly. I love it. But no, like you mentioned, there's something for everyone. And I've had people asking me every once in a while, like, hey, so what kind of training program do you do? And I don't know if you've seen like my stories when I post everything, but I don't recommend what I do to almost anybody. For example, 2 days ago when I was training legs, I was this close to throwing up. And when people ask me, should I do that? I'm like, no, you should not. Like, you're not going to enjoy it because you're new to the gym. And you probably don't have the like stamina to even get to that part, to that training at this point. So please don't do that.
Yeah, I actually remember when I first started training, and one of my buddies wanted to come with me to the gym. And I was maybe a year or two into like actually like coaching people at that point. And I brought him to the gym with me, and we did my workout.
Oh God.
That was a mistake. The next day, I get a text message from my buddy. He's like, I fucking hate you. I can't get out of bed. His abs hurt so much he couldn't get out of bed. That's kind of like alluding to what you're talking about, where it's like
100%.
You just can't jump into stuff that other people are doing. There's like progressions you need to work through, just like in your video games, right? Like you've got to earn every step of the process.
Exactly. You can just jump into end game stuff when you first create a new character.
That's right. You're gonna die immediately. Like that's not gonna work. Like you can't jump to the end game content before you've had a chance to understand how to play the game.
100%. I don't know. Have you ever played World of Warcraft, by the way?
So I haven't played World of Warcraft. I played Warcraft 2. I actually so MMORPGs and I are, we have a tenuous relationship.
A love-hate relationship, I see.
So I played Lord of the Rings online for maybe like a year and a half or so. My relationship ended. I barely made it to work on time. I lost myself in that game. So I have been very hesitant to
jump into anything
world MMORPG style games as a result. But you go ahead, like you wanted to talk about Warcraft, like jump in.
No, the reason I brought it up is because you were talking about like your friend is being absolutely slaughtered by your workout. The first time I ever played, my buddy introduced me to the game. He played with me for like an hour and he's like, okay, just go explore. I was like, okay, solid. At this point, I was this forsaken, like undead mage, I think. No, I know it was undead frost mage. Right. You could either go like northwest. This is my west, or northeast. Other way, actually, northwest, northeast. God, I'm a nerd.
Gotta make sure.
Anyways,
you're right.
Exactly. He told me just go wherever you want to. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go to the west side. And as I'm walking over there, there's this huge gate, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. It's just he told me to go wherever. I'll be safe. I walk through this, and literally the moment I walk through it, there's this. I was like level 5 or something. There was this bear whose level was literally a fucking skull. I had no idea what this meant. He ran up to me, and I instantly died. And at that point, I had no idea what to do. This is the first time I ever died. but I learned to never go back to that area ever again. And that's essentially exactly what you just said. It's like you can't just jump into from your starting area to doing like an Olympian's like workout or something. And that was basically my experience with video games when I was 14 or something, jumping into RPGs. That was the first RPG played. It's like, okay, cool. So I can't go here yet. I got to work on my way up to that. I got to get some talent, some levels, all you have, whatever have you.
Yep.
So it's kind of wild.
And like you said, that's exactly the same as when you're in fitness. Like you can't just jump into like what your trainer or your buddy who's been training for a few years is doing. Like it does not work that way. Like maybe you can do the same style of workout, but you'll have to scale back what kind of weight you're using. You have to learn some of the movements in some cases. Like right now I'm doing a lot of kettlebell work, and some of the movements that I do are very challenging to learn, let alone execute. And to execute them at the frequency and intensity that I do is another matter entirely. And so and I've had to earn that progression over time, even coming from like bodybuilding, probably. Right? Like it's not the same. Moving from one style of training to another, even when you're like a more advanced trainer, if you move to a new area with new things you have to learn, then you have to learn how to do those things first, level up those new attributes that you need to be able to utilize before you can continue to progress.
Dude, it's so true. I remember the first time I hurt my shoulder and I went to the physical therapist. And he was like, okay, so you're going to need to do this exercise. So he showed me first. And I looked at him. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is the easiest. I don't even remember what it was. It was some kind of exercise where you like rotate your arms up. Or you do some kind of shoulder, like rotator cuff exercise. I was like, this is the easiest thing ever. I can easily do this. He did a set with like 5 pounds of like 20 reps. I was like, I can do that. Easy. He gave me a 1 pound dumbbell. That was it. And he told me to do 12. I was sweating so much, and my shoulder was sore for 3 days afterwards. He's like, yeah, it's not that easy, is it? I'm like, oh my Lord, dude. And he gave me like a whole plan. He gave me like 5 of those exercises for like my front delt, rear delt, side, all that stuff. And I was absolutely floored. Like that, just my mind was blown. I think I was 21. You know, I had that ego. I was like, I can't be beat. I'm fine. I can do whatever I want. Nope. I learned my lesson that day, and I still see that physical therapist to this day whenever I need something. It was like you said, you can't just jump into something and think you're going to be the best. You got to work your way up.
That's right. Like, and sometimes that means grabbing that 1 pound weight and being humbled a little bit.
Exactly. I was talking to this guy in the gym actually recently, and he was saying that he hadn't trained legs in like 2 years. He felt bad about it. I was like, dude, you got to train legs. And he saw me squatting. I think I was doing 270, 275 or something. And he was like, man, I wish I could do that, but I can only squat like 95 pounds right now. And so I don't even want to train legs in public. Like he literally felt embarrassed to train in public because of the light weights. So you saying you have to like humble yourself and like just kind of let it happen. It's like, that's kind of what I told him. I was like, dude, just don't let anyone else think about it. Like no one's gonna look at you squatting 95 pounds thinking, ooh, what a pussy. Like no one cares.
Yeah.
And if they do care, they shouldn't even be there anyway. So just tone it down to what you can do and work your way up. It's honestly the best way to do it. Otherwise you're gonna hurt yourself.
Earning those progressions. It's just like leveling up in the video game. You have to keep taking that little step ladder, and you earn the experience and you get to the next level and you just keep building. But I mean, like, if somebody's judging you for where you're at, that's on them. That shouldn't have anything to do with you.
Exactly. It shows their character, nothing about you. It shows who they are.
Exactly. Right. And that is a huge problem in the fitness industry right now. Like I can't begrudge people feeling nervous about being in the gym, because there are a lot of people who are judging you, and there are like cameras out all over the place, like filming these people
nowadays.
And like making these terrible videos, making fun of these people. It's like, why are you doing that? Like you're discouraging these people from coming back and doing something that's good for their health. And maybe they loved working out until you ruined it for them. Right. Like it kind of like guys tried to ruin video games for me when I was growing up. It's like, that's the nerdy thing. Like
bully you, stuff you in closets and
on this sports team, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons after, and it's going to be awesome. Like,
exactly. That's the way it should be. It's just everyone mind their own business. But on the note of videoing and like recording people that do like, I guess, things in the gym that look funny or whatever have you. I think that happened earlier in the week, and I actually saw some big names like Greg Doucette. I don't know if you know Greg
Yep.
Doucette or
Greg actually lives in the same city as me.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you seen him drive his Lambo around?
I mean, I've seen a couple of Lambos around. I'm not sure if it was his or not, but like probably seen it at some point.
Gotcha. God, that's actually really cool. I didn't know that. I don't actually have no idea where he lives in Canada, so that checks out. And then Derek from More Plays More Dates actually had the same style video, just like calling these people out that filmed some kid doing something in the gym and saying, hey, this isn't cool. Like, you're a grown ass man making fun of some 16-year-old in the gym that was trying to better himself. Like, there's no reason to do this. So having just those big names like coming out and saying that, I think is really helpful nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have seen like there's a few people on Instagram that are doing that. I've noticed recently as well, like calling people out for that kind of behavior. It's like, we need to change the narrative. Like this can't be the way that we treat people coming into the gym. This is not going to encourage more people to get involved in fitness and to better their life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point of going to the gym, is to kind of get your life together, get your health together, and get healthier and better. If you make fun of people that are trying to do that, like, I mean, they're never going to get better. And then it's kind of on you if they get sick, or, you know, that's in my opinion. Like, I will never judge a person that is overweight or anything when they're in the gym. Like that's where they should be. That's where you should be to like better yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that Picard meme where he's like, why the fuck are you making fun of the person in the gym who's trying to lose weight? They're actively trying to deal with the problem. Like,
exactly. It's like the opposite of who you should make fun of if you're going to make fun of anyone.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think like, mind your own fucking business. That's actually the way we should be, right? Like, this is not your problem. Like,
I 100% agree.
Yeah. All right. So, what are you playing right now? Let's talk gaming.
Oh my God. So 3 weeks ago, I think it was, World of Warcraft launched their 9.2 patch, and I stopped playing, I think, last year because it was absolute garbage. They just ruined the game for me. Sorry if you like it. You shouldn't have over the last year. So they changed a couple things, and they kind of got better now. The story is still trash, but I'm a huge PvP player. So any game that has some kind of like player versus player thing, I'm always into that portion of the game. So I felt the itch. I came back. It's relatively doable again now, and I started playing WoW again. So for all intents and purposes, I play a priest. I heal people, and that's what I do. It's not what I love necessarily always, but in this patch, it's one of the easiest things to do, and most rewarding, if you will. So I've been having a great time with that. Outside of that, however, before that, I played a bunch of Halo Infinite because finally 343 Studios did something right, and made Halo like it used to be. They haven't done much content since it finally released, but the multiplayer actually felt like Halo 3 and ODST and Reach a little bit. So I was super happy about that. That was a great game. And we were talking about this before we recorded, but my other guilty pleasure is City Skylines. And if you haven't heard of this, it's a city building game that I have, oh Lord, about 500 hours on Steam, which isn't that much compared to my WoW hours, but it's a lot of hours.
For a like city simulator, I feel like that's a lot of hours.
It's a lot. It is a lot of hours.
I may have played that much SimCity since it came out in like 92.
Oh my God.
Like,
it's a little spread out more.
A little bit more spread out, I think. Yeah.
See, my problem with that game, I don't have this with any other game except for the city builder games, is that I'll set myself a timer. I'll be like, okay, it's 8. I'll play for 1 hour. And then like at 9 p.m., like my alarm goes off. And I'll be like in the middle of making this district. So I'm like, okay, I need like 10 more minutes to like finish up the game. I forget to reset my timer. It's like 9:45. I'm like, okay, I'll just give myself 15 more minutes to like finish up. And then it's like, by the time I end playing, it's like 11:30 at night. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, why did I do this? It's been 4 hours.
How did this happen?
Exactly. How did it get to this?
I'm telling you, it's those like micro things they do in games that just keep reeling you back in, right? It's like, oh, I'll do one more mission. Like that's no big deal, right? Like,
exactly.
Get this next one done, and then I'll stop. and then like they immediately give you the next mission. So what happens? Like, you play
and
the
it's
next
like short. Like it's only gonna be like 5 minutes. It'll be fine. Then you do 5 of those like 5-minute missions, and you're 25 minutes later. You're like, oh, why?
And somehow now it's midnight and I should have been asleep 2 hours ago. And here we are still playing the same game.
And at some point, you're just like, you know what? I already fucked up at this point. I might as well keep going.
Like, who needs to sleep? I'm just going to play until I have to go to work tomorrow. It's fine. Like,
Exactly.
it won't
fine.
affect anything,
sick.
right?
I'll be sick tomorrow. It's fine. No problem.
I can call in sick to work. That's fine. Nobody's going to know it's because of video games.
Actually on that note, my boss is kind of or back then was a huge video game player too. So he kind of knew, that I played a lot of video games. But one weekend, I don't remember what game came out, but some kind of game came out. I played from probably Friday after work until Sunday night. I probably played 25 hours of video games the entire weekend. I literally told my girlfriend at the time, like, I'm sorry, babe, like, we're not doing a damn thing this weekend. You can go to your family. Like, I'm going to play this game. On Monday morning, I came to work, turned on my computer. I had the worst screen headache I have ever had in my life. Like, I could not look at a bright screen. I was working for about 2 hours. I was like, yo, boss, my head hurts. I got to go home. I don't know what happened. But I saw in his, I didn't tell him it was because of video games, but in his eyes, I could just see him. I was like, he knew what video game release. He's like, okay, you go home and you're not going to look at any screens and come back to work tomorrow, right? I'm like, yeah, trust me. And I actually didn't. I actually did not play any video games for the rest of the day because that headache was terrible. I put like, what do you call that? Like medicines in my body, whatever I needed, just kind of get rid of it. But it just stayed for like 5 hours. And then I just decided to just go on a walk outside, just relax. And it kind of went away and just fine the next day. But that felt bad. My boss never brought it up, luckily, but I learned my lesson.
I'm like, that's why I'm like torn about like blue light glasses and stuff. Cause like it's like, it's beneficial. So we can play for longer periods of time.
Do we want that?
Do we want that? All this like blue light blockers. I'm not sure. I think I might need that blue light to stop me from playing for 72 consecutive hours.
Oh, no, 100%.
I feel like that could happen if given the appropriate tools.
You just have like a box of like protein bars next to you and like a big jug of protein powder like right next to you too. And you just kind of keep going. You just keep playing. What are you playing, by the way, now?
So I have been completely absorbed in Pokemon Legends Arceus lately. Like literally, I think I have almost 75 hours of gameplay and I've had the game for like 2 weeks.
What's your starter? Which starter did you choose?
It was the water one. I don't remember which one it was. It's a new one for me.
What is that? I know what you're talking about. I don't know his name. It was like Oshawott. That's what it is.
Oshawott,
there we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There are actually a number of new Pokemon in this one that I don't know. I mean, honestly, I actually hadn't
more to explore.
Yeah, I hadn't played a Pokemon game since probably Yellow.
Oh my God, yeah. Really? Like, so you were like, they finally innovated, I have to play.
They finally went open world. I like, honestly, like my problem with the Pokemon franchise was it was the same game every time. Right? So like I played Red and I played Yellow and like they were literally the same game in that case. The only difference was you got to start with Pikachu instead of one of like Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle. But like then the next game came out and it's literally exactly the same format. They just have some new Pokemon. There's a few more gyms, like there's different gym leaders. But that was the only difference. The gameplay was exactly the same. There was nothing new about the game. So I was like, why would I play this? I don't want to learn another like 200 Pokemon's names. So
now you're behind like 900.
Yeah. Now I was like, oh my God, there's so many. I mean,
there's
like,
a new one coming out this year.
I did play Pokemon Go when it came out.
Okay.
But
that was a good time.
Like when it was the first 151 Pokemon again, I was like, I know these Pokemon and I like being outside and like, and everyone was playing. Like,
honestly,
it was
2016 when this game released,
right?
was the most was probably the closest we've ever gotten to like complete like world peace. Like everyone was playing. All sides of every aisle was playing together. No one cared. Everyone was just catching Pikachus and Pokemons and whatever have you. The Pikachus with different hats and stuff. I remember like literally scanning my app once while I was walking my dog, and I saw that there was a Dragonite like 4 streets down. I put my dog back in the apartment right after she peed. I sprinted 4 blocks to catch a Dragonite, and everyone was just huffing and puffing. There was like 10, 12 people there on that block just going like, oh my God, what do you think? It was amazing. It was great. I love that period.
Yeah, it just like brought everybody together, and everyone was active, right?
Everyone was outside.
What other video game has ever managed to accomplish that? Like, not one.
No, absolutely none. No, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not
There
sure
are
if there
definitely some that have helped people
one.
be more active, but none that have achieved that level of like engagement from the audience.
That's true.
Because that game was massive. And of course, when they expanded into the, like 200 more Pokemon, I was like, well, I'm done.
You're like, I will walk, but I'm not having the app open anymore.
Yeah, I'll keep going outside. That's fine. But I'm not trying to catch another 200 Pokemon, especially when it was like, oh, look, some of these are only available in certain regions. I was like, I'm not traveling to Europe to catch a Pokemon.
Or Australia.
Like, why would I do that?
And then you have to trade them with people, and which you couldn't do for the longest time. I remember that. You couldn't actually trade. So you had to I remember that.
Yeah. So
rough time.
We're upset with people who were like utilizing what would we call it? Like the GPS locator, like apps that would like change your location for you, like, and then you could actually like move your like guy on the screen with like a little cursor
remember
button.
That.
Yeah.
What a throwback, dude. Oh my God. I never used that, but I remember friends doing it to capture like the European whatever, Mr. Mime, I think is what it was.
Yeah, Mr. Mime, and I think it was Tauros in Australia, and then there was one in Asia. I think it was Kangaskhan that was in Asia.
That sounds right. Right.
But I don't remember. All I know is like I did start using those apps to get those Pokemon, and then they released like their patches to stop people from being able to do that. And I was like, why?
Okay, like now I'm never gonna get them.
Like what's the point? Why is it not okay for me to do this? Like,
arbitrary restrictions.
Who am I harming by doing this? Right? Me. That's who I was harming, because I wasn't out walking and actually doing the activity anymore.
That's true. That's honestly one thing that I don't like about certain video games is when they block you from doing something that hurts no one, but just makes your life like a little less fun. I'm like, who cares? Like if I want to do something some way and it doesn't hurt anyone else, like why do you care? Like who cares?
I'm like, I'm 100% with you. Actually, it's the same way that I feel about like emulating video games. Who does it hurt? Right? Because like those games are not available in any other form. And it's
you can't buy them anywhere. You can't download them anywhere. You just literally
the only way you
illegally download them.
Like some of those classic games is to buy, like, and they're incredibly expensive buying like vintage games and stuff now. But you can just buy them from third parties, right? Like somebody who like happens to have it in their garage or like at a yard sale if you luck out maybe. But it's like Nintendo in particular, it's like, no, you're not playing our games. And I'm like, but why? Like I'm literally not hurting anybody. You can't make any money from this game anymore because you're not selling it in any form
for no reason either. Like if you want us to play it, just like at least give us the option.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Switch now, like so the whole Switch Online membership. That's what I was like. You could put these games in there, and then like people could pay to play those games. And if you were doing that and then upset that people were pirating your game,
that makes sense.
I would understand. Be like, but you can play those games. You just have to pay us for access. But instead, no, that game doesn't exist on any of our platforms, but you're also not allowed to play it.
It's just like, why even like all those man hours that went into creating that video game, like just gone at this point. Like why can't we play it anymore? And actually, now that you bring that up, I saw an article 2 weeks ago when they announced that the 3DS marketplace was going to be completely canceled. I think next year or the year thereafter. And you basically want to spend all your money. I think it's next year. That's what it was, 2023. You'd have to spend all your money off the marketplace on 3DS before then, and then like half a year after, you can't spend any more money there. You'd have to download all the games that you own. Otherwise, you'd never be able to download them ever again. So like you said, they're not porting them to the Switch. They're not porting them to like Steam or whatever have you. So you won't ever be able to play some of those downloadable only games ever, unless you pirate them from, we won't name names, but we know where.
We can find them.
We can figure it out. So yeah, it's like all those hours, all that investment in these video games, and just to let them flow into the ether. Like, why would you do that? And they get mad at us for wanting to play them. It's like, come on.
It's like,
one or the other.
Yeah, it's like either give us a way for us to play these games, or be okay with us finding a way to play these games, right? Like we're still feeling nostalgic about something that you created, right? Like we want to continue to experience this thing that you brought into our lives, and now you won't let us. Like,
and I think Xbox and PlayStation are actually pretty good at that, about just bringing back those old games into right now Game Pass. And I think PlayStation is behind the scenes working on something similar as well, just bringing those games back. And that's like, awesome. Let me play Halo 1 again, or whatever have you. Or I don't remember like the old Xbox like OG games, but there's a couple ones that my friends always bring up that they want to play with me. I'm like, let's do it. Sounds good.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, why not? Especially when there is nostalgia associated with it. Like, I mean, they're talking about remastering GoldenEye in the N64
Yeah,
era,
you're right.
right? Like that would be an amazing game for people to be able to play again. I've never been a big fan of first person shooters, but like that one was one that I did enjoy. And like being able to play that online with friends would be dope. Like,
I actually really wonder how well that's going to hold up. Like if they actually remaster it, just like the same way it was back then, I wonder if people will still like it, or if it's just all rose tinted glasses.
Like there's definitely going to be an element of the rose tinted glasses. I'm not sure how well it will hold up, but that said, like I still go back and play old NES and SNES games all the time. And some of those hold up really well. Like my favorite game of all time is Chrono Trigger. I don't know if you've ever played it.
That sounds super familiar. I feel like someone else has brought that up to me once or twice, but I don't think I've ever played it. Otherwise,
so it's
I would
like
know.
an action adventure RPG.
Okay.
Right? Like in the vein sort of like Final Fantasy.
Okay.
The story's amazing. The gameplay was very engaging. It's one of the last games that got released for the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Before like they moved into the N64 era. And that I think is why a lot of people didn't play it. But the people who did loved it. And it gets ranked as one of the top 5 best Super Nintendo games of all time on everyone's list.
That is awesome.
Any of
Chrono
these
Trigger
do that. Chrono Trigger, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
They did Chrono Cross for the PlayStation because like Square Enix left Nintendo after. Well, I guess they were just Square then, but they left Nintendo when Nintendo went to the N64. They kept the cartridges, but PlayStation, like Sony, decided to go with the discs. The disc gave them more realm to work with in creating their games. So that's like why Final Fantasy VII was such a big and immersive game for people, because they could put it on discs instead of on a cartridge. Of course, there's 2 discs, as I remember, for Final Fantasy VII too. Crazy, right? We don't even use discs anymore, but they needed 2 for this game.
Wasn't there like some Final Fantasy game that had like 4 discs? I don't remember what it was, but there was some game that my buddy played, and he played the whole way through. It had like 4 or 5 discs back on like the Xbox or PlayStation 2 or something.
Oh my God,
I was like, this is insane.
I feel like there was an anthology that they released that was definitely several discs for the PlayStation 2, if I remember right. But
that's wild.
Now it's just digital. Like I just
download
bought,
200 gigs.
I just bought like the Final Fantasy remastered like pixel editions, and there's like 6 games. Just to download it to my computer. I can now play them.
Easy.
Easy. It's like that would have been like 6 discs at a minimum back like if not more for some of those games in order to be able to play them. But
if you compare that to now too, what is, you said you don't play Call of Duty or like FPS much, but Warzone and Call of Duty, I think it's up to like 250 gigs right now. Just download and play the game. There's a buddy of mine who has a 256 gig SSD. even play the game.
Yeah.
It's so big.
It's nuts, right? Like,
and we came from like, what is it, like floppy disks and like single CDs where they had
oh my
like 10
God, yeah.
megabytes on it or something. That was the whole game.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm like, a floppy disk was like 8 megabytes. And that was a big deal. I was like, oh my God,
huge.
it's so much storage. Now 8 megabytes is not even a picture. Like,
exactly. Oh,
I mean, like
Lord.
2 seconds of this interview would probably be more than 8 megabytes.
Definitely. Definitely. Oh my God, you're right.
Which, yeah, it's just insane when you think about like how far and like how quickly we've progressed that technology, and like all of the options that allows us in terms of gaming, and all the like various games that we can play now because of that. 250 gigs for a game is excessive, I think. Like,
it's a little nuts.
A bit much.
I wonder if they're just going to keep getting bigger, or if they're going to find some kind of way to optimize size, like file sizes, or we're just going to continually get larger and larger.
Yeah,
because
it's so hard.
It's going to be crazy,
right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, like part of it is also like getting into that hyper realism, right? Like, so particularly for games like Call of Duty, where like they want it to be like more lifelike, and a lot of gamers really want that. They're not as concerned about like the story and getting immersed into like a game, or like being as interested in the gameplay itself. Like for me, that's more my preference. I like the gameplay, and that's why I like Nintendo, because the games tend to be more immersive, right? Whereas like first person shooters and that kind of thing, it's about really mastering the controls so that you can dominate all of your friends, which I understand.
Honestly, that's my thing. Like, I don't know what I do know. I'm super competitive both in sports and video games. So whenever there's a video game that comes out and it's like it has a competitive mode or a PvP mode, like I'll be like, time to get my hands dirty. My voice is cracked. Time to get my hands dirty and and shit on some of these guys.
Yep. And I mean, like I said, I understand that. I get that appeals to some people. I mean, obviously it appeals to a lot of people, actually, because those games are massive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so many people.
And they have even more people watching them too nowadays.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So like esports, that's nuts, right? Like that we're in this environment where like video games have become a sport. I think that's also why like fitness needs to be more a part of that. But it's crazy that like it's esports now, and it's huge.
It is absolutely enormous. And actually, it's funny that you bring it up, or that they came up, because today at one of my work meetings, they were talking about sports or something. And at some point, one of these guys, I think he wasn't even that old. He's like 29 or something, literally 2 years older than me. He's like, I don't understand why these people like watch other people play video games. Like, I don't understand. I'm like, Tom, do you watch sports? He's like, yeah, I watch sports. I'm like, to these kids, that's literally the same thing. Like, you look up to LeBron James being super great at basketball. Well, this kid looks up to Shroud because he can 1v12 an entire, like, I don't know, Apex Legends game or whatever he plays nowadays. Yeah. Like, that's literally the same thing. And it's just, you grew up with this, they grew up with that, and they still watch sports too. So it's not like they swap one for the other. It's just an additional sport, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just say that things are bad or weird just because you're not used to them. Like that's I feel like some boomer mentality. You can't do that.
And the fact that he's only 29, that astounds me.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, Tom, what?
Wait a second. I was like, I'm 36. I understand this stuff.
Even my dad's 54. He understands it. He thinks it's weird, but he understands it.
Yeah. And then like, I think I saw a meme about that actually, where it was like, why do you watch other people play video games when you could do them yourself? And the retort was like, why do you watch sports when you could go do them yourself? Like, exactly. It's the same thing. You're admiring someone else's skill, right?
Exactly. Or trying to learn or do something, or just literal entertainment just because you want to sit down and do nothing for an hour.
So, I'm like, I remember I was big into Hades for a little while. I don't know if you played that one.
Yeah. It was fun. That was a fun game.
But like, not only did I play a lot, I watched a lot of other people play because I wanted to get better. And then I even like got into some like little like tournament type things, that there was some underground communities with speed running and stuff. And I felt like I was getting pretty good. I wasn't that good.
Isn't it always that way? You're like, okay, I'm getting pretty good. You start watching other people online, you're like,
I'm
back
not
to
that
the
good.
drawing board.
What am I doing wrong, coach?
What other skills do I have?
I
That's so
mean,
funny.
like, I only put in like 200, 250 hours, I think, into the game,
Yeah,
which is a lot for
of
like
course, an
for many
adult.
games. But like at that point, I was like, man, I am not getting on the level of these guys because they're playing like 8 hours a day.
They've got like 5,000 hours on that game.
Yeah, I was like, I can't compete with that.
No,
the other thing,
can't.
of course, is that they were all playing PC, and I got it for the Switch, right? So like they had actually already been playing for probably like 5,000 hours at that point.
Definitely.
Before I even got my hands on it. And here I am trying to figure out how they do it. They do it because they've been playing a lot longer than you, dumbass. Like,
get that into your head.
You could get better if you put that kind of time in, but you have a girlfriend and a job and
other games that you probably want to play too. That was always my issue with outside like trying to get into esports. I was always too into playing many different games. Right. The only game that I really played a ton and was actually almost joined an esports team back when that was super underground was back in 2006 with the original Gears of War. It was my buddy and I who'd set up all kinds of private games. People would join and we'd absolutely dominate and just practice for like 5, 6, 7 hours a day. Yeah. And up to the point where we were winning unofficial skirmishes against literal esports teams with just like the two of us against like a team of 3 or 4. And it was absolutely insane. Whoa. But we never went anywhere really because it was not even a thing yet back in 2006. It was like, I think it was, what was that? There was a website called somethingbattles.com where they were basically starting esports, if you will, with certain games like Call of Duty, Halo, and Gears of War at the time. But that was the only game that I really stuck to for a long time. After that ended, it was just play a little bit of WoW, play a little bit of Halo, play a little bit of Gears of War, play a little bit of Assassin's Creed, whatever else came out. It was just 5 hours here, 6 hours there. I was 12, 13 at the time, so I had that time in a day. Right. But it was just everything, whatever I wanted.
Do that, hey?
Man, I still remember Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 coming out. And I literally, what I would do, this was 2009, 2010. I'd come home from school on the bus, ran home, put my jacket away, turn on the Xbox, grab the sandwich, and right as I finished eating, my buddy would come online because he lived a little further away, and we'd play for like 6 hours until it was dinner time. And then it was my brother's turn afterwards. But
so you couldn't go back.
We had so much fun. It was so much fun unless he was like doing something else or whatever have you, like dealing with a dog or whatever. I'd be like, time to play more. But it was like, I wish I had that time still because that would be so fun. But alas, I have opportunities. I do have opportunities, but I have responsibilities is what I meant to say.
Right. Both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Opportunities and responsibilities. Responsibilities perhaps as a result of said opportunities.
Yeah, and probably vice versa too.
Fair. Yeah. I think Hades is the closest that I came to getting like good enough at a game to actually consider myself good at a game. Then definitely I'm fascinated by esports and like Twitch,
so crazy.
The whole like streaming experience and how people are interacting with these like gamers now. And also like, how do you sit and game for other people for 8 hours at a time?
I think it's really like a skill that they've built up over time. It's like they're not only good at the video game, but they're also just entertaining to watch. I mean, I've seen people stream where they literally just play the video game and they might be really good, but they say nothing and they're not interesting to watch, so they don't have any viewers. But then you have someone else who's pretty good, but just like hilarious to watch or just very engaging. And so I feel like it's really a skill set that they've built up over the time, and just it's working for them, and they've made a great empire out of it, if you will. So good on them. But it is fascinating for sure.
Kudos to you for being able to play video games to make a living. That's amazing to me, because like when
every kid's dream.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, no nobody would have believed me if I said I was going to be a professional video game player. That wasn't a thing. You couldn't do that. Like now
Like,
people,
sure, kid.
yeah, sure you will. And now I'm like, man, I wish I had put more time into it because I maybe could be now.
Honestly, I agree. Like I was like, all that time spent playing Call of Duty, if I just put a little bit more into it, I could have been you. I could have been you.
Well, it's funny actually because I was having a conversation with somebody recently about that, and like Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. I don't remember that
Old
game.
school game, yeah.
Old school. So like the speed running record for that game is like 32 minutes, I think.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. I beat it in 43 when I was like 14 or something. Like I got really good at that game.
And I bet the speed run record at that time when you beat it when you were 14 wasn't even 32 minutes. It was probably like 45 minutes or something.
I don't even know that speed running was even a thing yet when I was playing Donkey Kong.
That's fair. That is fair.
But I mean, like I played through that game so many times that I just like could blow through it. Like,
eyes closed. It was like, okay, I got this.
Yeah. I never considered being completely blindfolded and playing, although I've seen guys do that on Twitch streams.
It's insane. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm like, how? Particularly when it was Hades. I was like, how are you playing Hades blindfolded? Like, I don't understand.
Because it's randomized too.
Yeah.
That's insane. Oh my God.
I was like, no.
Like, not possible.
You can't be doing this right now. I don't understand.
This is illegal. Stop it now.
You're cheating. I don't know how, but you're cheating. But yeah, like that. So that was like when I realized, like, oh, maybe I could have been good at video games if I'd put more time into it. Because like that's pretty good.
40. I mean, I don't even know how you guys finish these types of games and play them that many times. Like I've had a couple games that I've played maybe 3-4 times all the way through. But then I've heard people tell me like, oh, I've played XYZ game like 20 times all the way through. I'm like, how do you still enjoy the same game after 20 times through? Like I wouldn't be able to do it. So props to you guys, especially those Twitch folks who play the same game that many times to get a speedrunning record. It's like, ooh, I can't do it. Even if I wanted to, I'd get so bored. Even if I was good at it, I'd be like, nah, never mind. I'll do something else.
That was the funny thing when I jumped into like a speedrunning like tournament thing. Like they had like 2 teams of 6 guys, and like it was like head to head. So like both the first guy played through, like beat Hades, and then the next guy would immediately start his run. But everybody,
like a relay,
yeah. So it's like a relay. But everybody, like with each of the different weapons, always went with the same builds. But where I hadn't actually been part of the community that long and was kind of just like playing the game the way that I played the game, when I did my run, everybody loved watching me because I did something completely different. No one expected it. So
what were you running?
Like, yeah, I think they gave me the fists, and I did a splash and dash.
Okay.
So like I had the fist with Poseidon's dash ability. So like do the water spreading out. And I got to hit the sea storms, I think. Cool, Poseidon and lightning. So like every time that you hit them with the water, they would also get struck by lightning. Yeah. It's not the most effective build for the fist.
But it's fun.
And it was exciting to watch. And I actually set a record for myself. Yeah. Like I did my fastest run ever on that stream.
That is awesome. That is adrenaline pumping. You're like, oh my God, we got this.
Must go faster. Awesome. How are they so far ahead of me?
Gotta go fast. What was everyone else running? Just like the same thing you said?
So like basically like they would run like the top tier combo for that weapon. So like everybody got a different weapon. So like I think there were 6 weapons in the game. So like I was the 5th
everyone got a different
my relay team to play because I was the fists. But like the guy with the sword did like the Doom build.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, got it.
Right. So like
got you.
Yeah. So every time you dash, you do doom damage to the enemies. Like that's actually the best build for the fists too, is to do the merciful end build. So like when people saw me go in and grab Poseidon and then go for like Zeus, they were like, what is this guy doing?
What a noob. But no, I'm kidding.
Pretty much I think how they saw it, to be honest.
I mean, I guess that's one of like the slightly more toxic things of sometimes the gaming community is where if you don't do the optimal thing, sometimes, especially when it's competitive games, people get mad at you.
Yeah.
For example, like I guess in World of Warcraft right now, they have certain choices that you have to make. You have to switch one to the other. They, like I said, they kind of fix this a little bit. This is why I came back. But back in the time, back like last year, back in the day, time's flying.
We're not old. It's fine.
I'm not old at all. Back like last year, whenever it came out, you'd have to choose one of the four. And if you chose like the wrong one, essentially people would not invite you to groups because you're playing the wrong covenant, is what they were called. And it's like, they have choices for a reason. I chose one that I like. It might not be the best one, but why you got to be toxic about it? Like, I'm still good at what I do. I'm still enjoying myself. Like, it's not going to hinder you this much. So sometimes that's just a toxic thing that tends to creep up in video games sometimes.
I think that's probably just a problem with people in general, not necessarily just like video games. I think like
that's fair.
There's just a lot of that like tribalism in the way that we interact. And so it's like, if you don't do things the way that I do things, then like you're not doing it right. Like,
yes.
And I actually feel like there's been more of that polarity over the last like probably like 5 or 6 years or so, as like certain individuals have risen to power and done certain things. I don't want to get into a political debate here. So
this is video games, okay?
This is video games. But like I think like that division has actually just been widening. Like people are becoming more tribal about things. And yeah, it sucks. And I think it comes back to the sort of the same reasons that you and I agree that people shouldn't make fun of each other when they're going to the gym, right? Like, yeah. It's tribalism again. It's like, oh, you don't know how to do this? Like, what are you, some sort of noob? It's like, yeah, yes. Like, and what's wrong with that? Like,
everyone starts somewhere. I feel like with that, particularly when it comes to the gym and things where people are really good, it's like, have you forgotten where you started and when you started? Do you think you were perfect when you started? Not so much. And
that's
on that note,
for you.
Yeah, exactly. Newsflash. One thing that I don't know if this is like an official thing, but one thing that I've started noticing in almost every facet of life is that when you have like people that are really new at something, they tend to be pretty humble and pretty like willing to learn. Then you have the people that are intermediate who are major douchebags. Like they think they're the best at everything, but they're not. And then you have the people that are really good at something that are back to being humble and like helpful and like nice people. And I found that in the gym. I found that in business. I found that in video games. I feel like it's like that bell curve, if you will. And I don't know if that's like just my experience with meeting people or if that's
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, the more you learn about something, the more humble you will become.
Exactly.
You start to realize how little you actually know. Mm-hmm. Like, whereas like those people in the middle ground, they think they've got it all down already, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's the intermediates that are always the people that think they know best. Like they've already mastered everything. Their confidence don't need to learn anymore. Way beyond their ability. Yeah, so it's like, yep, it's definitely a problem in every industry, though. You're right. Like, and that's, as again, it comes back to dealing with people.
Yep.
Like, people are fallible. That's just how we are.
It's how we are. If we were all perfect, would the world be better? I don't know, but it would definitely be less fun.
I feel like it would be a lot less fun. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it were perfect, would we all be the same?
Like, there was a Fairly Odd Parents episode of that. I don't know if you ever watched that. Back to like the geeky part. When I was a kid, there was this TV show called Fairly Odd Parents with this one kid who had two fairy godparents, whatever they're called. And there was one episode where he wishes that everyone was the same. And essentially, the world became so boring that it was all black and white instead of color. And everyone was the same blob of like, what was it, gray goo, if you will. And they were all just like moving through the world together. And they were all the same. It was the most boring episode we've ever watched.
That sounds terrible.
Imagine the world be like that. Everything is just dreary, gray, boring. Everyone's the same. Everyone agrees on everything. There's nothing going on.
There's no excitement in that whatsoever. Yeah.
I think there's even no reason to exist at that point. Oh God, existential crisis now.
Yep. I mean, like, I kind of feel like that's like what happens in the Matrix, right? Like when the like the machines take over.
My
That's
God,
the
you're right.
it's the world outside, right? It's all drab and boring, and like there's just all these machines doing the same tasks over and over again. And then like
Exactly.
the humans are not okay with that. We can't be shoved into a
We
box
literally
and made
can't
all
be.
the same, right? And yet we try to do that to each other. Why?
Yep.
This has got into a very existential conversation.
I know. Should we dial it back a little bit? Dial it back. I know there's a couple topics we still want to talk about, especially when it comes to the geeky side of things, rather than just video games.
We haven't really delved into the geek too much.
Go for it.
So, what are you most excited about in the geek environment? Could be Marvel, Star Wars, maybe something a little bit more niche. I don't know. What's coming up for you?
I'm gonna throw you a curveball.
All right.
Jurassic World, the new one. What is it? I don't even remember the name. Dominion. That's what it is. Dominion.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
That's coming out on June 10th, I believe, and I've been waiting for that for like a year now because it was supposed to come out last year, 2021, June 11th or something. But the whole COVID situation pushed it back because of production issues and whatever have you. So finally, they announced the release date a couple months back. They released a trailer a couple of weeks ago, and that trailer has got me all kinds of hyped for the new Jurassic World movie.
You were amped up. So did you enjoy the whole Jurassic series, like from the very first one right up to now? Or yeah.
No. I watched that shit since I was a baby. Like the movie came out before I was born, 1993. I was born 1994.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I got into this. I guess I was just into dinosaurs, and I don't know why they let me watch this. But literally, when I was maybe 4, 1998, 1999, 5-ish maybe, I started watching that movie pretty much like every month. And it was to the point where whenever I would visit my grandma's house and she'd have like not the DVD, was it like what are they called again?
VHS?
The VHS tapes, yes. She had those.
I'm old. It's fine.
I'm not that old, but she still had them.
Yeah.
And I think before we moved, we had a whole box of Disney VHS tapes that I think they're probably trash now, but we probably should have kept them, but that's beside the point.
I mean, I know some collectors that would definitely have wanted to get their hands on that. My sister, for instance, would have been over the moon to find out that you had a bunch of Disney stuff.
Yeah, I don't know where they are. I think they're probably long gone at this point. But yeah, probably should have kept them, but that's all 2020 vision,
it doesn't matter. It's too late now. Hindsight.
Anyways, I used to watch that movie Jurassic Park, the first one, every single time I went to my grandparents' house, to the point where I could literally like visualize what was going to happen. I was just like super excited about it. And I had this cousin, like a half cousin, who was 3 years older than me, and he got scared every single time like the Velociraptors and the T-Rex came out. I would sit there and be like, wow,
amazing.
This is the best thing ever. And I remember when Jurassic Park 3 came out, the one that people tend to not like, I couldn't even read yet at the time, but there would be like newspaper ads and everything with pictures of dinosaurs, and I'd be like, Dad, what does this say? Every single time I would see like a dinosaur on the newspaper, he'd be like reading it out to me, like Jurassic Park 3 releases this and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be just so into it. So after like, what was it, like 14 years of nothing Jurassic Park related, and Jurassic World came out with one of my favorite actors, Chris Pratt, I got all kinds of just reeled back into it. So ever since then, I was hooked again. I've rewatched the entire trilogy, the original trilogy and the last 2 movies several times. And I'm probably going to do that one more time before the movie comes out.
I mean, that seems only right to me.
You have
to do it, right? Like,
exactly.
It's like I recently rewatched all of the Lord of the Rings, and like I couldn't sit down and watch all of them at one time, and I was disappointed in myself.
How many hours is the whole
the whole thing is just shy of 13 hours, I think.
Oh my God. That's
That's just the Lord of the Rings. That doesn't include The Hobbit, which I was also like, you should do that too. But I was like,
what do you think?
Oh, man. What's that?
I was gonna say, what do you think about the Amazon and their new Lord of the Rings show that they've been announcing? Are you hopeful? Are you wary? What do you think?
I am hopeful. I think there's potential there. I feel like they really dropped the ball on the name.
Okay.
Like,
what's the name?
The Rings of Power. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's it. It
It's
just,
a little vague.
yeah. I was like, somebody, I can't even remember what the name that the guy came up with, but I remember seeing a meme where a guy just like threw out another name and he's like, really? That was the best you could do? What about this? And it was a better name. And for whatever reason, I can't remember what it is right now, which drives
You're
me
like, it
nuts.
doesn't
Like, is it
even
really a
matter
better
now.
name if I can't remember it?
It's when you think of something, you forget it, and you're like, was it really that important if I don't remember what I was going to say? Whatever.
But anyway, yeah. So I am cautiously optimistic that it'll be pretty good.
Gotcha.
The thing is, like, I don't know how much like Tolkien that you've read.
I haven't read any of them. I've seen the movies and The Hobbit, but
Yeah.
I didn't read much really until when I was younger. So I've really only gotten into actually reading things recently.
Okay.
So I'm behind on a lot of stuff.
That's fair. Like my dad used to read the like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit to my sister and I when we were like going to bed way back.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
And then he slices the hand off.
But so like that was like my introduction to that world, but I hadn't read anything outside of that until I was an adult. And the thing is that like the Second Age and a lot of that other material that he's written is quite dry. Because it's a lot more world building and not as much excitement. Right. I mean, even the Lord of the Rings, honestly, like if you read the book, is very like word heavy. Like he does build a lot, but there's a lot of action in there as well. And that's what they took and put into the movies. And I think like Peter Jackson did.
That's kind of how you have to make movies nowadays.
Yeah. Like
100%.
So if you can adapt something that effectively to the big screen, like I think that's a marvelous skill. I don't know how he did it so like near perfectly, to be honest. Like there's very little that's wrong with those films, and they still hold up. Having like just watched them again, like it's like
20 years old now.
Like when was it? Yeah, it was early 2000s. Yeah, it's like the first one was it 2002? I feel like it was around
Twin Towers. I feel like was 2002 maybe. I don't remember. We'll look at this into.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. September 11th, 2001. I remember I was actually in high school.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah. It would have been about that time as well that the first Lord of the Rings came out. Because it was one
20 years.
It was one each year until I graduated. Yeah. It's crazy.
And they, like you said, they still hold up. That is
really, they do.
That's a really good job.
Like both visually and like in terms of the storytelling, even though they're like 3.5, 4 hours long, like the extended cuts, of course, like the theatrical releases,
they keep you reeled in. Yeah.
But it's like, that's a long movie and nobody was doing movies that long at that point.
And now you have Spider-Man 3.5 hours,
which is also amazing.
Which was amazing. Yeah, that's true. I had some people saying, "Oh, it's the best Marvel movie ever," but I feel like it would be like second, third, maybe. I still think Endgame and Infinity War are probably one of my favorite movies out of the Marvel series ever. And I do have to throw out an OG to Iron Man 1 because that started everything.
Right.
Probably still one of my favorite movies.
I mean, Iron Man, like the first one, definitely is still a great film. It holds up pretty well.
Just amazing.
Personally, I'm not sure about which one is my favorite overall.
You don't know?
I don't know. I need to
top three.
I need to rewatch No Way Home because like I loved it the first time, but I never make my decision on just one view. I have to see it at least one more time.
Fair enough.
Right now, personally, Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, that's a really good. That was one of the funniest ones too.
It's my favorite of all of the Marvel films right now. But like No Way Home is like right up there with it, but I need to watch it again to make sure that it wasn't just like the rose tinted glasses of being like, oh my God, Spider-Man's back.
That's fair. I actually watched that movie at 10 a.m. in the morning, the day before I had to take a flight back to Washington. It's like no one was willing to watch it with me that morning or that evening because it was opening night, and I was like, that's fair. I won't go either. It's gonna be too busy. I'll go the next morning, and everyone was just not available. So I was like, you know what? 10 a.m., $10, it's cheaper. I'm just gonna go watch it by myself. Best experience ever. There was no one in the theater. It was the day after release. It was amazing.
Oh my God, that's like the best way to watch anything.
I agree. I was like, I might do this again. Just go to movies in the morning. Oh my God, genius.
No one's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Loser. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's again judgment call.
Exactly. That's all subjective again.
They already think we're losers for being into gaming
And Marvel
and Star Wars.
Probably,
And like, yeah. So it's like, what difference does it make now? It's too late. They already think we're nerds. Like,
Exactly.
we're gonna wear that like a badge of honor, though.
Definitely, 100%. On that note, Star Wars, Kenobi.
Oh my God. So I've talked a little bit about how excited I am for this on the podcast already. Like my very first episode was shortly after the first trailer like dropped for Kenobi.
That was like a teaser, man. That was like, that was barely a trailer.
Barely a trailer. I mean, I think it's almost 2 minutes of footage. Like, so it's like, it's a trailer. It is definitely a teaser too, though. Like, you're like, where are they going? What are they doing with this? Like,
where is it going?
Oh my God.
I'm excited for that one. That's for sure.
Yeah, it looks incredible. I definitely can barely contain my excitement right now talking to you about it. Like,
it's getting closer. TikTok.
Oh my God. May 20, maybe, May 25th. This is 2 months away.
Literally exact 2 months away from recording, pretty much.
Pretty much 2 months from today. Yep. Crazy. And Dave Filoni is a genius. Honestly, the stuff that he's done with Star Wars, I don't think anybody understands it on the level that he does.
I mean, he worked with Star Wars for a while, right?
Yeah. So like he's the head behind the Clone Wars cartoon.
Such a good show.
Yeah, such a good show. Right.
You watch Rebels too, right?
I did. Yeah.
Okay,
and I watched Resistance. If it has Star Wars stamped on it, I've probably seen it.
That's fair.
Like some of the books in the comics I haven't read, but like that's because again, there's so many of them, and I don't have an unlimited budget to pay for these things.
That's fair. That's fair.
But if I did,
they'd be all behind you in the closet, 100%.
They would. They're actually like on the top shelf of the closet. There is a box of like comic books, and there's a bunch of like original Marvel Star Wars comic books in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So like from the 70s, my dad gave them to me. Like they are a treasured possession of mine.
I bet.
And then a few over the years that I accumulated as people were like, "Oh, Jason likes Star Wars. Here, have this Star Wars thing."
There you go. Yeah, I get that.
I'm kind of known as the Star Wars guy in my circle. That's
really.
Somebody has a question about Star Wars, they usually come to me.
What kind of questions did I come to you with?
I mean,
like, is it like weird things or things that are like, how do you not know this? Come on. Like, what is it?
It definitely depends on who's coming to ask me the question.
Okay.
It's like with Mandalorian and like the Book of Boba Fett, a lot of it was like, who is this? Like,
yeah.
Right. Like Cad Bane. I had people
so excited when Cad Bane showed up.
That was amazing, right? But people were like,
"You think he's dead? You think he's dead?"
Is that? Do I think he's dead? Oh, he certainly seems it. But I mean, like, there's a very good chance that Boba did not drive it into him and drove it into the dirt. Right? That's a very Boba Fett thing to do.
We'll see.
Yeah. So I would not say that's the last we've seen of Cad Bane. Whether or not he'll be in the future from the Mandalorian or whether he'll be like a past thing remains to be seen. Really,
he's such a good character.
He's such a good
character. Hope so.
Yeah, I would love to see more live action with his character as well. Like, there's like so much you could get into with a bounty hunter like that. Like,
and they've only had him for like 2 episodes there, right? I think is what it was. Yeah. They create the whole character, everything, the visuals for 2 episodes.
Yeah, it seems a little sus, right? Like, I don't know.
Exactly. I feel like they'd go a longer way with that, but we shall see.
Like, yeah, Dave Filoni just like ties all of this stuff together so masterfully. It's incredible, and it just makes me more disappointed that he wasn't involved in the sequels.
Don't even get me started.
So like Disney was just like, "Oh, George Lucas wants you to do this? No." Like we'll handle this. We know what we're doing. Clearly, you don't.
No, you did not. It's like there's parts of the last trilogy where I'm like, this is really good and this could have gone places, but then the way it's executed, I'm like, why did we have to do this way?
I absolutely agree. There are definitely elements of it that I enjoyed a lot. And I personally feel like people that kind of shit on The Last Jedi more than they should. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there are definitely problems. Do not get me wrong. There were definitely issues with the storytelling, but I think a lot of it stemmed from them not planning ahead. They did not have a coherent plan from episode 7 through episode 9.
It's kind of went all over the place.
Yeah,
they were like,
exactly. And I mean, they also tried to appease the fans after The Last Jedi, which I also felt was a mistake. It's like, no, like, yes, some fanboys were butthurt about it, but like, you don't change the direction of the story because some like diehard fans are being butthurt that their favorite character isn't as OP as he is in all of the canon that you used to have. Like, it wouldn't make for a good story if Luke was that powerful in those movies.
That's fair.
Right? Like, you can't translate from those books and like comic books into a movie that is actually compelling. Like, if you have a character that's that strong, that could basically just like wave his hand and everything's fine. Like,
that's one problem that these types of like worlds, especially also with Marvel, the problem that sometimes comes up, it's like in certain canon, they're extremely powerful, but then you kind of handicap them for certain situations in certain movies just because you don't want to ruin the whole movie and the whole storytelling. I think what was that episode of What If where not Vision, was it Vision? The Ultron just slices Thanos in half, right?
Yep.
It's like end of Thanos. Like, well, what if Vision couldn't Vision have just done that in Infinity War and called the whole thing off? Well, no, because X, Y, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Well, I mean,
so that's always a problem.
There's another potential explanation there, in that like Ultron's a villain and Vision is not.
Exactly.
Right? It's just like slicing someone in half is a pretty evil thing to do.
But it could have
no
saved
matter
half
what
the
their
universe.
intentions were. Like,
that's fair.
I mean, I feel like in that case, I'm like, why didn't like Vision just cut his hand off? Like, if he didn't have the Infinity Gauntlet, like, that's a much less gruesome thing that he could have done.
But you get the point, right? It's like people are being toned down, and with their powers are not as excessive as they could have been. Yeah. Just because there's a story that needs to be told.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, in order to tell compelling stories, you need characters that can carry the storyline along. They can't be like, oh, I can solve this problem with like just like the snap of my fingers. Although that's an odd analogy, since that's exactly what Thanos does. Snaps his fingers and changes everything.
Everything is done.
But I mean, like, the whole point of the Infinity Gauntlet is it's OP. So
exactly. And I do really wonder, like, well, I don't have to wonder, because that's actually a problem in certain video games, especially right now with World of Warcraft, actually, where there's just always a bigger level of power, and at some point it just becomes unbelievable and not fun, which is why the story of WoW is kind of tragic right now. Yeah, tragic, actually, just trash. Right. It's like, if you do that with Marvel, or if you do it with Star Wars, you're gonna have to have someone that's more powerful every single time, to the point where this just becomes unbelievable. Like, okay, great. Let's say with Star Wars, like, okay, we have the Empire, we have the First Order. What are we gonna have next? Like, the first galactic whatever something else. It's like, okay, well, we're just gonna have bigger, more powerful beings every single time. At what point does it stop? Like, kind of gets boring.
How do you continue to make a compelling story if like the characters keep getting stronger and then the villains have to keep getting stronger as well? Exactly. Right? Because you have to make the villains strong enough to make it seem like they can win. Again, it needs to be believable, right? And that's why they couldn't make Luke the way that he is in like the books, because he's just like, he solves problems with very little effort. Like, he's too strong for the galaxy. Like, so like, yeah, when you do that, and like in video games as well, like, people want characters like that in video games, and I've never understood that mentality personally. I like the constant striving to be better, but I'm like, at a certain point, why are you making me this powerful in this game? Like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, that I could just be like, oh yeah, problem over there, that's not a problem anymore. Like, problem over there, that's not a problem anymore. Like, that's not fun. Like a little bit of struggle is
a little bit
important.
of a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need to have a chance of not winning. The most exciting things that happen in video games is when you pull out that victory with 1 hit point left.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when you're like, you just
1%.
barely get that last hit in and you're like, yes.
You're like, we got it. Woo! Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
You're almost like shaking. You're so excited from having managed to pull that off.
Almost. You ever just like sweating from your palms?
You are literally sweating bullets and like vibrating because you're so excited.
I have definitely been there, done that, where you're just like, I don't remember what happened. I think a couple weeks ago something happened. I literally I did something. I won. I literally yelled at my screen like in just happiness. I was like, yeah. I think I stood up too, like walked through my room. I was like, oh my God.
Oh man, yeah, I've seen streamers do that, like playing their game, and like they just like pull off an unreal thing in the game, and then just like push themselves away from their computer and like walk. They're so
off excited,
the
they like have to like walk it off. Yep.
You're like, whoa, dude, like you want to come back? There's still people here. Like you still have an audience.
Still watching. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the game's still on the screen. It's fine. I don't know.
They got something to look at. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I feel like that's a lot of talking.
It was. It was good though. It was exciting.
I don't even know where like the runtime on this is. I don't see it anywhere on my screen actually.
Yeah, I don't see it. I looked for that earlier, just like recording. I was like, you know what?
Just let
it's fine. Just keep going.
Yeah, it's only been like 90 minutes. It's like that's definitely longer than when I talk by myself.
I think that's the way it goes, right? I mean, by yourself, you kind of have to like run off yourself, but if you have someone else to bounce off of, it just kind of keeps you going for a little bit longer.
Exactly. You start bouncing ideas off of one another.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thanks again for popping on and shooting the shit with me for an hour and a half. I feel
my pleasure.
Little structure though. That's fine. Like, right. I'm sure it's still exciting. I'll get more.
It comes with time. It comes with time.
It will only get better.
There you go. Just like working out, just like video games.
I will get better at handling having somebody else to talk to. Maybe I'll even come in with a plan for one of these episodes.
You know what? That's what a brilliant idea.
It's almost like, do you think I have to think ahead? I don't know.
Sometimes.
So I think maybe it depends on who you're talking to.
I feel that.
All right. Well, I will let you go, my man. I'm sure you've got some things that you need to get to, and I know that I should probably be getting ready for bed soon.
Well, I appreciate the invite. It's been a great time talking to you, Jason. And if you want to have me on again, let me know. I'll make some time.
Absolutely. I think that would be great. I'm sure there will be more stuff for us to talk about.
There always will be. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man.
You have a good evening.
Have a good night.